Hey everyone, how's it going? So, I want to cover a topic on destroying child actors in this video. I've seen it a couple of times in the Discord and just around the internet as well, where people, if let's say we've got an actor that spawns another actor, they pass a reference to it so they can then track it to be destroyed. But there's actually quite an easy way to do that, so I'm going to show you guys that in this video. As another example, what I want to cover is if you're doing VR development, it can be quite popular to spawn the VR hands separately as separate actors. So if you were to destroy the player, you would want to destroy the hands that are on that player. So it's something I've done in the GDXR template, and I want to show you how I've set that up in here. So just to begin, all I've done off camera is set up a basic cube blueprint. So it's just a cube blueprint with simulate generated events and then simulate physics. And then I've modified the first person projectile to allow me to destroy that actor if it has the tag destructible. So if I go in and I now pick up the gun, I can actually destroy that actor. But let's say we spawn this into the level, and this cube, that in turn spawns something else. So if we set this up, we're going to do a scene. So I'm just going to move this above, and this is going to be a location. And then what we can do is we can have this spawn another actor. So we're going to create that now. So blueprint class actor bp underscore spawned item. We can open this up and we'll just make this a sphere. We don't need to interact with this, but what we're going to do is we're going to turn on physics. So simulate physics. So when it's brought into the scene, it should bounce off the top and kind of roll around. So we can see that they are detached and they're not working together essentially. So in the cube, we're just going to go to event begin play and then spawn actor from class. And in here, we're just going to do spawned item, and for the transform we're just going to use the scene. So we're going to get transform, get world transform specifically, and then plug that into spawn transform, and then we'll say adjust but always spawn, and if we need to we can create a reference to the spawned actor, but we don't really need to do that. So when we press play now, we get that sphere is spawned on the top of the cube, and then it's not destroyed when we destroy the cube itself. So what people seem to do is if you're in the cube and you spawn the item, you would pass a reference through to the spawned actor to say this is the parent, and then you could use an interface or something along those lines. But it's actually much simpler than that. You see on the drop down here, we have this option called owner. So what we can do is we can say self. So we'll get a reference to self. When this actor spawns, we're going to tell it that the cube, BP cube, is the owner of this spawned actor. So now in spawned item, what we can do is we can go down here on the left. And now inside of the spawned item, which is the one that we want to listen to the cube with, what we can do is we can actually right click and do get owner. And then if we drag off this return pin and we search for bind, we can actually search for destroy. So bind on destroy. So bind event on destroy, and we can plug this into begin play. So what's going to happen here is when this sphere is spawned, the spawn item is created, we're going to listen to the owner and we're going to check to see if it's ever been destroyed, and it'll be constantly running. So if we do this and we say, we could call this owner spawned, and then we say, okay, we can actually get a reference to the destroyed actor. So we could do a print string and we plug that in there. So that's going to tell us which parent, so say BP cube, has been destroyed. And then we could give it some kind of delay, and we could say after 1 second, we want to destroy ourselves. So now if we press play, we got our cube spawning in. And then when we shoot it, it waits and then it'll destroy itself. So rather than having to pass through and do a hard chain, basically, a hard reference, you don't have to do that. You can just search for the bind and you can listen to it. And a super cool thing as well is, let's say we're in this blueprint, which is the cube, which is destroyed by the bullet. So the bullet tells this actor which is destroyed. Let's say we want the cube to do something before it's destroyed or after. What we could do is we can actually go to this override option here on the left, then we can search for destroyed. So even though the actor's being destroyed, we could tell this to do a print string. This could be, I don't know, particle effect or something along them lines. Then we can say cube was destroyed. So if we compile that now, we can pick up our gun, we can destroy the cube. It tells us in the top left cube was destroyed, and then BP cube was the name from the sphere, and then it actually destroys itself. So you can see how you don't need a lot of hard references, and you can actually track what's going on with it without having to pass through different references, through event interfaces and stuff like that. So hopefully this is helpful. You can use it in a bunch of different ways. Like I said, in the GDXR template, I've got a new update coming out and I'm using it to destroy the hands when the player changes character. So if we change the character to a different actor, it spawns its own hands, so we don't need to keep the old ones in the level. So we can tell it, the player or the hands, that when that owner has died, we just kind of remove those. So we can do some nice things with them. So we can pick this gun up, now plug it in, and then it's going to destroy one of these randomly for whichever one it is in the scene. But they're all technically not linked in a way, but they are linked. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, if you've got any questions, make sure to head over to the GDXR Discord. I'm in there most days, helping where I can. We've just hit 4,000 members, which is awesome. And if you want access to the files for this project, I'll put them up on the YouTube members and on Patreon for you to download, which will be up there soon. Cool. All right. Thank you to everyone over on Patreon and YouTube members. See your names at the end of the video. And if you want your name there, make sure to head on over. Bye.